The Virginia sky burned amber as the sun dipped low its light, fracturing through the pines along Route 17, casting jagged shadows across the hood of Colonel Sarah Mitchell's black Dodge Charger. The road stretched empty, a ribbon of cracked asphalt winding through rural sprawl, the air heavy with summer's pine-scented weight. She'd left Fort Hamilton an hour earlier, the base's squat concrete fading in her rear view like a bad memory. A high-clearance briefing had dragged on too many generals, flexing polished silence, their words circling a grim reality. A rot was festering in the nation's law enforcement, not in distant war zones, but here in precincts and patrol cars cloaked in badges and private forums. Sarah's role in the Joint Counter-Infiltration Division was to hunt at her identity buried beneath civilian plates, tied to a Department of Defense shell company, her existence a ghost in the system. Her fingers tapped the steering wheel, mentally sorting encrypted audio logs stashed under the console. Their contents, a map of extremist threads weaving through police ranks. The Charger, tinted and unmarked, was built for anonymity, but on a back road like this, it was a beacon. A black woman alone in a government-grade vehicle didn't blend in. Not to locals, not to cops with egos sharper than their wits. Sarah had navigated stops before some quick others, thick with questions that probed her presence, not her paperwork. Today, her mind was on the mission cells embedding themselves in departments shielded by loyalty and lies. DC could wait. She wasn't in a hurry. Then the cruiser appeared. It slid into her rear view around a bend, white and gleaming state police by its sleek lines, pacing her like a hound. Sarah checked her speedometer, dead on 55, and eased her lane position testing. The cruiser mirrored her silent, deliberate. Her pulse ticked up, but her face stayed calm, hands steady on the wheel. 30 seconds later, red and blue erupted, slicing through the dusk, with a command that brooked no argument. She exhaled slow and controlled, and guided the Charger onto the gravel, shoulder tires crunching against the uneven earth. The road was a graveyard. No cars, no witnesses, just trees crowding close their branches, clawing the sky. Her hands rested open on the wheel posture, relaxed eyes sharp. Two officers stepped out, both white, their authority worn like armor. James Carter Younger approached with a strut chest, puffed, one hand hovering near his holster, the other swinging loose. Nathan Brooks, older, leaner, hung back his gaze, drilling through her rear windshield, cold and unblinking. Carter's face was a mask. No warmth, no curiosity. License and registration. He said the words flat, a formality stripped of civility. Sarah nodded, reaching slowly for the black folder in the glove box, every motion deliberate, telegraphed. Here, she said, handing over her federal ID, its DOD seal stark against the leather. "Can I ask why I was pulled over?" Her voice was even a practiced balance of compliance and steel. Carter didn't glance at the credentials. Plates flagged as suspicious, he said, eyes narrowing, searching her face for a flinch. Could be stolen. Step out of the vehicle. His tone was a blade, not a request. Sarah didn't move. "Officer, this vehicle's registered through a Department of Defense channel. The plates won't match civilian systems, that's by design. You'd see that if you ran them through the secure portal." Her words were calm, but her gut tightened. The air felt wrong, the road's isolation, a weight pressing against her chest. She'd seen this play before, but the script was off too sharp, too fast. Carter's jaw clenched, her knowledge a challenge he didn't expect. Brooks edged closer, abandoning his pretense of checking taillights, his hand resting on his holster with deliberate ease. "Step out, ma'am," Carter repeated, voice dropping a warning coiled inside it. "I'm not refusing," Sarah said, hands still visible, "but I need a lawful reason to exit. My ID's valid. I've explained the plates. I'm invoking my right to remain in the vehicle unless detained." Her training held her steady, a shield forged from years in rooms and roads where her rank was dismissed, her presence questioned. Carter's radio crackled a voice cutting through confirmed target. High-risk armed suspect. Proceed with caution. The words were faint, distorted, but they shifted the air like a storm rolling in. Sarah's eyes flicked to the dashboard where the red LED of her onboard recorder blinked unnoticed by the officers. The alert wasn't random. A setup fed through channels she'd been tracking for months. These men weren't just prejudiced. They were cogs in the network she hunted, and her plates had triggered a trap. Out Carter snapped, yanking the door open with a metallic groan, his hand seizing her wrist, bruising. Sarah tensed her elbow, shifting to guard her core, her body angled toward him. She didn't speak. Her posture screamed wrong. Brooks unhooked his baton, its click sharp against the gravel's crunch. She's resisting. He called loud a line for a record that didn't exist. Carter pulled harder, dragging her legs toward the door. Sarah braced her heel, twisting to hold her ground, her free hand pushing against Carter's chest. Not a strike, a boundary. She's reaching. Brooks barked the lie, a whip crack. Carter's gun flashed barrel inches from her ribs. Sarah saw the intent the half-second before the world exploded. The shot tore through her side, a white-hot lance that buckled her knees. She hit the gravel, hard blood pooling beneath her breath, gone. Her ears rang their voices, fragments. What did you do? She went for something. They didn't check. Her pulse didn't cuff her. They stood frozen, adrenaline souring into silence. Sarah's vision blurred, but the recorder's red light anchored her blinking, transmitting. They thought they'd erased her. They were wrong. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, sterile and relentless, carving sharp edges into the room's off-white walls. Sarah Mitchell blinked against their glare, her eyelids heavy, sluggish from sedatives that dulled her senses, but couldn't smother the instinct clawing back to life. Her mouth was dry, tasting of copper and antiseptic. Pain throbbed in her side, a deep, gnawing ache beneath bandages that felt too tight, as if her ribs had been stitched together without permission. She was alive, a fact that settled slowly like dust after a blast. The last clear memory was gravel biting her palms, blood pooling warm beneath her, and the red LED of her charger's recorder blinking in the fading light. Everything after was a haze, voices, hands, motion, none of it hers to control. She turned her head, wincing as the movement tugged at her wound. No windows, no hospital charts, just a bare room with a military-issue duffel tucked under a chair. Its black nylon unmarked, but familiar. A monitor beeped softly, its rhythm mechanical, indifferent. This wasn't a civilian ward. The air smelled of vinyl and disinfectant, too controlled for a public hospital. Her fingers twitched, testing the IV line taped to her arm, her mind already mapping the space, one door reinforced, no visible cameras, no nurses hovering. A secure facility, likely military, but off the books. The door opened soundlessly, admitting two men in dark suits, their faces schooled into professional neutrality. They didn't introduce themselves, didn't need to. Their posture screamed intelligence, internal, not here to answer questions. The taller one, lean with gray at his temples, stood just past the bed. "Glad you're stable, Colonel," he said. Voice clipped. "You've been under watch since extraction." "Where am I?" Sarah's voice rasped raw from disuse, each word a small battle against the fog in her throat. "Recovery unit outside Quantico," the second man said, shorter, his eyes scanning her like a dossier. "Classified. You were transferred 3 hours after civilian trauma care at Allegheny General. Logged as Jane Doe, gunshot wound, internal bleeding, no ID. Local police filed it as a non-lethal discharge during detainment. DOD biometrics flagged you for transfer." Sarah's jaw tightened, pain flaring as she processed the subtext. Her ID, her credentials, her vehicle all ignored or buried. The incident reduced to a line in a sealed report, her story erased. "How'd I get to Allegheny?" she asked, voice steadier now. The taller man didn't blink. "Your vehicle's distress signal activated standard for DoD assets. A civilian reported a body on Route 17, but our team intercepted before local response escalated. You were critical but stable by the time we moved you." She nodded once, filing it away. The Charger's black box system had saved her pinging a secure channel when her vitals flatlined. But the officers James Carter and Nathan Brooks hadn't known about the recorder, hadn't checked for tech. Sloppy or arrogant. "I want the footage," she said, eyes locking on the taller man. He hesitated, glancing at his partner. "You're not in legal jeopardy, Colonel. The matter's being handled." "I didn't ask if it was handled," she said, voice cutting through the haze. "I want the footage." The shorter man pulled a tablet from a messenger bag, tapped through encrypted screens, and handed it to her. Sarah sat up, pain spiking under her ribs, and took it without a word. The screen flickered, showing the Charger's interior, her hands on the wheel, her voice calm Carter's demands, Brooks's lies. Every word, every move down to the muzzle flash, and her body crumpling. The recorder had captured it all, pristine, damning. They hadn't disabled, it hadn't even noticed. She watched Carter's gun fire, her own blood hitting the gravel, and felt her pulse hammer not from fear, but fury. "You'll want to be careful with that," the taller man said, as if advising her on a speeding ticket. "Joint Chiefs know your condition. Command recommends a full review, no escalation. Optics are delicate, politically, strategically. The larger operations still active. We don't want to jeopardize your intel trail by pushing this." Sarah's eyes lifted cold and unyielding. "So I'm ordered to stand down." He nodded once, without pretense. "It's not the time. The bigger threat's out there. You were lucky." She handed the tablet back, her face, betraying nothing, but something inside shifted hard and final. Lucky wasn't surviving a bullet meant to silence her. Lucky was the red light that kept blinking. The men took their cue and left the door clicking shut behind them. Sarah lay still, pain pulsing, but her mind was racing, mapping the next move. They thought they could bury her. They didn't know her. Minutes later, the door opened again, and Captain Rachel Turner filled the frame. Her uniform crisp, her scowl deeper than the lines etched around her eyes. She shut the door hard. "You almost died," she said, skipping pleasantries. Her voice low with barely contained anger. "You know that. I'm aware." Sarah said, easing herself up, pain lancing through her side. "What's the cover story?" Rachel folded her arms. "Accidental force response, 1 paragraph locked file. I hacked the dispatch log to find you. Carter and Brooks' internal reviews already closed. No charges, no inquiry. They're back on duty." Sarah's eyes drifted to a locked cabinet across the room, likely holding her effects if anything was left. "They're telling me to let it go," she said, voice flat. Rachel's jaw tightened. "And you're not." "No," Sarah said, her gaze shifting to the ceiling, tracing its seams. "They think this was a bad stop, 2 idiots on a power trip. It wasn't." Her voice dropped cold, resolute. "I was on assignment following threads they don't want traced. That bullet wasn't random." Rachel didn't reply, just watched her waiting. Sarah turned, wincing but meeting her eyes. "I need a secure server. A burner laptop and traffic logs from Route 17 last 48 hours. Start with cruisers within 10 miles. We build the case ourselves." Rachel nodded, once turned and left without a word. Alone again, Sarah exhaled slow and deliberate, her hand brushing the bandage beneath her gown. The pain was there, but so was something else, resolve sharp as a blade. Whatever came next, it would be on her terms. The Virginia night pressed close, thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, as Sarah Mitchell crouched in a decommissioned recon van half a mile from the target. The vehicle bought off books from a defense surplus auction sat obscured by overgrown brush, its matte black exterior swallowing the moonlight. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the hum of monitors and the faint crackle of encrypted comms. Sarah's side ached the bandage beneath her tactical vest, a constant reminder of the bullet that had nearly ended her. 3 weeks since Route 17, and her body was still a map of bruises, but her focus was razor-sharp, honed by the footage that played on a loop in her mind: Carter's gun, Brooks's lie, her blood, on the gravel. Rachel Turner sat beside her eyes, locked on a thermal feed streaming from a drone circling high above. "Perimeter's tight," Rachel said, voice low. 2 guards, night vision rotating every 30 minutes. No drones, no cameras, old-school setup. Her fingers tapped coordinates into a tablet, mapping blind spots around the property known as Red Haven, a sprawling farmhouse tucked in a rural pocket outside Staunton. To the tax ledger, it was a private retreat owned by a Montana-based foundation. To Sarah, it was a nerve center for the Guardians of Truth, the extremist network she'd been tracking. Ethan Hayes' voice cut through the comms from a secure terminal in D.C. His tone dry but focused, intercepted a data packet from their internal relay. Homemade encryption, sloppy but effective. Left Precinct 3B 2 hours ago, bounced through a proxy in West Virginia, landed at Red Haven. Sender's device matches Carter's last known IP. Sarah's jaw tightened. James Carter, reinstated without a blemish, was no rogue cop. He was a cog in a machine, and Red Haven was its hub. The property had surfaced in traffic logs. Rachel pulled, tied to a cruiser pinged near Route 17 the night Sarah was shot. Ethan's filters, built from years cracking NSA black boxes, had caught the rest-encrypted chat's keyword hits, like Sentinel and Crimson Protocol, a lattice of complicity linking precincts to this isolated compound. "Show me the thermal," Sarah said, leaning toward the monitor. The drone's feed rendered Red Haven in soft oranges and reds a pulsing organ in the dark. 6 heat signatures moved inside men, civilian-clad, one at a desk, another shifting crates. A smaller outbuilding, barely a shed, glowed faintly. 3 signatures inside 2 small, 1 larger, unmoving. Sarah's stomach turned. "Kids?" she asked, voice flat. "Likely," Rachel said, her scowl deepening. "No restraints visible, but they haven't shifted in 10 minutes. Could be hostages, could be worse." Sarah's hand curled into a fist, her wound protesting. "This isn't just a safe house. It's a staging ground, training, recruitment, coordination." She turned to the 2 operators in the van's rear, ex-Black Ops from Leavenworth, called in on a debt owed to her. Their faces were unreadable gear, stripped of insignia, chosen for precision, not loyalty. "We hit at Oro 200. Surround, slow crawl, infrared clearance. Neutralize hostiles, secure non-combatants, grab every drive." The lead operator, Garrison, nodded once. "You're coming? I'm not sitting it out," Sarah said, her voice steel. "This was my mission before they tried to bury me. It still is." The drone circled again, its whisper lost in the night wind. Ethan's voice crackled. "Got a live chat log? 2 users, 1 alias we flagged, Black North 92. Matches Carter's old training handle. They're prepping a Crimson Protocol for Sunday local assets in place. Mentions a Blue Shield could be complicit cops." Sarah's eyes narrowed. Blue Shield had surfaced in her logs before a code for officers embedded in the network, ready to deflect or escalate. "Trace the outbound vehicle," she said. "Black SUV, no plates, left the compound 10 minutes ago. Probable signal drive on board." "On it," Ethan replied, keys already clacking. Sarah powered up a palm-sized drone from a case at her feet, its infrared lens glinting. She launched it silently, its blades slicing the air as it rose above the trees. The feed showed Red Haven's roof reinforced with metal sheets, a red and black flag snapping in the breeze. Not American, not military, a spiked cross at its center. Her pulse steadied cold and certain. This wasn't a militia hideout. It was a cell, disciplined, deliberate. "Guard rotation in 5, Rachel said, marking the feed. "South windows are ingress. No tripwires, no alarms, hardwired, not cellular. They're trained to stay dark." Sarah adjusted her vest, the weight familiar grounding. Carter hadn't just walked free, he'd been promoted shielded by a system that didn't ask questions. Red Haven wasn't a fluke. It was a blueprint, a place where badges turned into weapons, where children were collateral. She keyed her comms. Target confirmed. Red Haven's active. Begin documentation. We raid in 72 hours. The drone's feed flickered as 3 figures emerged from the house, one with a rifle, another with a satchel moving toward the shed. Sarah's gaze followed unblinking. The network thought it could hide, thought it could erase her. But she was here, watching, waiting. And the shadows weren't theirs anymore. The safe house in West Virginia was a ghost of a place, its bare walls stained with years of neglect, the air thick with dust, and the faint hum of a rigged burner system. Sarah Mitchell sat at a scuffed metal table, her face lit by the grainy glow of a laptop screen, cycling through drone captures of Red Haven's ruins. 3 days since the raid, and her body still protested, ribs aching under fresh bandages, a split lip stinging with every word. The data they'd seized was damning hard drives, packed with names, precincts, and encrypted orders, a map of the Guardians of Truth's reach. But Washington's response had been a gut punch, a 5-line memo burying the case under oversight review, her mission credentials revoked. They hadn't locked her out yet. Someone up the chain was stalling, hoping she'd fade quietly. She wouldn't. Rachel Turner paced the room's edge, her boots scuffing the warped floorboards. "They're circling the wagons," she said, voice tight. Homeland Security's sitting on the Red Haven files, claiming jurisdictional overlap. Carter's gone to ground, last seen at a truck stop near Maryland Cruiser, stripped no trace. Sarah's eyes stayed on the screen, a thermal still of the shed, where they'd found 2 children and a teacher, wide-eyed reciting propaganda fed by their captors. "They're not just protecting Carter," she said, voice low, cold. "They're protecting the machine." Ethan Hayes' voice crackled through a secure line, his tone sharp despite the pain meds dulling his clipped shoulder. "Got a new clips live on X anonymous drop, amplified by disinformation accounts. You're the star." He patched a video feed to the laptop, and Sarah braced herself. The footage was grainy, a supposed body cam leak, Sarah in uniform, standing in rain beside a cruiser, shouting at a white officer. "You think I won't shoot if you blink wrong?" Her voice snarled, flat vowels too clean. The frame froze on her face, angry badge, glinting hand near her holster. The title read, "Federal Agent Threatens Local Hero." It was a deepfake, seamless to most, but Sarah saw the tells. Her badge was outdated. The cruiser, a model she'd never driven, the weapon non-regulation. "Posted 8 hours ago," Ethan said. "Hit syndicated news by noon. Police unions in 3 cities are demanding your arrest. DOJ's got a warrant draft, intimidation, obstruction, abuse of authority." Sarah leaned back, the chair creaking under her weight. Her pulse stayed even, but her mind raced. The Guardians weren't just hiding, they were weaponizing narrative, painting her as the threat to drown out Red Haven's truth. "They're seeding doubt," she said. "Even our allies will hesitate now." Rachel stopped pacing, arms crossed. "How long before they pin Red Haven on you?" "Depends," Sarah said, "on how fast we flip this." She turned to Ethan. "Trace the video's metadata. Find the render trail." Ethan's keys clacked. "Already on it." Sloppy export timestamp in the MP4, Header predates the alleged recording by 4 days. Editing suite's proprietary, linked to a defense contractor tied to the Shepherd Foundation before it dissolved. Black market rendering engine, same signature we flagged in a South Carolina op last year. Sarah's jaw tightened. William Shepherd, retired colonel, the network's rumored architect. This wasn't random. It was his playbook. "Get it to Laura Bennett," she said. "She'll know how to light the fuse." Detective Laura Bennett received the package in a Richmond parking garage, 4 levels deep. The envelope unmarked, but heavy with purpose. 23 years in internal affairs had taught her to spot rot, and she'd paid for it. Slashed tires, threats, a career stalled. She slid the thumb drive into her tablet, eyes narrowing at the file's video metadata, rendering logs a 1-page summary, tying the deepfake to Shepherd's old contractor. It wasn't enough for court, but it was enough to ask questions that didn't die quietly. She didn't call her superiors. She called 2 journalists who'd taken heat for exposing police cover-ups. Within 36 hours, the leak spread first on independent platforms, then forensic forums. Analysts tore the video apart, frame by frame, exposing timestamp discrepancies, artificial vocal flats. By day 3, a news outlet ran, "Whistleblower exposes deepfake smear against Army colonel." Public chatter shifted not fully, but enough. Police protests quieted in 2 cities. The warrant stalled in DOJ's legal maze. Homeland Security issued a statement, vague but telling, reviewing new evidence. They didn't apologize, they blinked. Laura called Sarah at midnight, her voice low over a burner line. "It's moving. Warrants in purgatory, but they'll try again if you surface." Sarah stared at a drone still of Red Haven's flag, its spiked cross charred but unbroken. "Then I won't," she said. "What's Carter's last ping?" "Burner tied to a relay Shepherd used in Carolina." Ethan cut in. "Went dark near a decommissioned guard camp in Montana Black Hollow. Shepherd's been spotted there twice. It's fortified off-grid militia patterns." Rachel leaned on the table, eyes on Sarah. "What's the move?" Sarah closed the laptop, the screen's glow fading. "We hit Shepherd before he rebuilds. No leaks, no headlines. We end it." The room went quiet, the weight of her words settling like dust. Outside, the night waited, and Sarah Mitchell, battered but unbowed, was ready to step back into its shadows. The Montana night was a blade cold and sharp, the air heavy with frost, and the distant tang of scorched earth. Sarah Mitchell crouched at the edge of a tree line, her breath misting faintly as she scanned the private airstrip carved into a forgotten basin north of Calaveras County. A turboprop Gulfstream sat on the tarmac, its hatch-open fuel tanks humming, ready to vanish into the dark. Thermal goggles showed 2 figures, one tall, rigid William Shepherd, the guardians of truth's architect, and another restless, clutching a duffel, James Carter, the man who'd shot her on Route 17. Black Hollow Shepherd's fortified compound loomed 10 miles back, but this strip was their escape hatch, and Sarah wasn't letting them slip through. Her side ached under her tactical vest, the scar from Carter's bullet, a dull pulse, but her focus was iron. Rachel Turner knelt beside her, relaying drone feeds to a wrist-mounted screen. 12 minutes on the warrant, Rachel whispered. After that, we're gray. A sealed federal warrant secured through Laura Bennett's back channels flagged Carter as a material witness in a corruption probe, giving them legal cover, thin but enough. Ethan Hayes' voice crackled through comms, strained but steady from a van outside the perimeter. Intercepted a Colombian relay diplomatic clearance forged for that plane. Shepherd's got assets waiting in Panama. Carter's on the manifest. Ethan's drone patched through a ghost net, painted the strip in infrared, 2 armed guards at the ramp. No external lights, just halogen rigs near a rusted hangar. Sarah adjusted her grip on her rifle, its weight grounding. Drop the guards non-lethal. Intercept before wheels up. Carter alive. Her team, Rachel, 2 ex-CIA operatives, and a digital recon specialist moved like shadows. SUVs blacked out, engines dampened. They'd assembled fast ghosts from her past missions, bound not by orders, but purpose. The strike was surgical. Suppressed rounds hissed, catching the guards in knee and shoulder. One screamed, collapsing. The other grunted, hitting the tarmac. Sarah sprinted across the open ground boots, silent, closing the 40 meters to the plane's ramp. Carter appeared in the hatch, eyes wild, pistol drawn. Recognition flashed, panic, not pride. And he fired clumsy, the shot grazing her cheek, heat searing her skin. She didn't flinch, surging up the ramp, momentum a weapon. Carter fired again, but Sarah caught his wrist, twisting it with a snap. The gun clattered down the metal ramp, lost in the dark. He swung an elbow. She ducked, driving her knee into his gut, slamming him against the bulkhead. "You shouldn't be alive," he spat, breathless. "I watched you bleed." "You're not the first to underestimate me," she said, voice ice. He headbutted her bone, cracking against bone stars bursting in her vision. She held fast, yanking him forward, smashing his head into the wall. He staggered, blood spraying, but lunged for a knife in his boot, its blade glinting. "You're nothing now," he snarled, slashing. Sarah sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, twisted until the knife fell and drove her elbow into his chin. He crumpled, gasping, but tackled her, pinning her to the deckhands at her throat. Her legs braced, heaving him off. He hit the ramp railing, shrieking rage. "You ruined everything," he shouted. "We were cleansing the rot." "You were the rot," Sarah said, kicking his knee. The pop, wet and final. She locked his arm in a chokehold, his struggles fading, body slumping. Flex cuffs bit into his wrists as she bound him tight, deliberate. "No more lies," she whispered, blood dripping from her lip. Rees in the wind, Rachel's voice cut through comms. "Vehicle east tree line. Ethan's tracking." "Handle it," Sarah said, dragging Carter down the ramp. A distant bloom of fire lit the horizon, Shepard's SUV, caught by a drone strike, its frame gutted. Sarah reached the shattered hangar where Shepard had crawled, leg-dragging Glock in hand. He leaned against a crate, blood soaking his shirt, eyes dull but defiant. 58 kills, he rasped, half-mocking. "They gave me medals for less than what they'll crucify you for." Sarah advanced, rifle low, sweeping the shadows. "You built cowards hiding behind children," she said. "This country doesn't need your memory." He lunged, weak but fast, tackling her. They hit the concrete, rolling his fist, clipping her jaw. She drove her knee into his side, flipping him, pinning his throat. He grabbed a pry bar, swinging wide. She ducked, twisted his wrist, and slammed him into a beam. "This isn't war," she growled. "You don't get to rewrite it." He collapsed, coughing blood, smiling faintly. "This doesn't end with me." "No," Sarah said, cuffing him to the beam, "but it starts." She keyed her comms. "Target secure. Send the team." The chopper extracted them at dawn, Shepard, silent, Carter, twitching in cuffs. Red Haven's data names, rosters, funding trails cracked the network open. Laura's leaks hit public channels, sparking DOJ probes, terrorism charges, and reform demands. Carter got life. Shepard vanished into a black site, his legacy a cautionary tale. Sarah didn't testify again. In a quiet Anacostia office, she and Rachel sifted new leads, Laura's voice on the line. "We're in." The war wasn't over, but the silence was broken, and Sarah Mitchell, unbowed, moved forward, her purpose unshaken.